Hello, good morning, everyone. Thank you for joining us for today's ECOSYSTEX Insights Series webinar. It's a beautiful sunny day here in Brussels, so I hope it's sunny where you are too. We're waiting a few moments for people to arrive. And while people are arriving, I would like to welcome all of you. Maybe you've been joining ECOSYSTEX Insights Series webinars in the past. Maybe this is your first time joining for such a webinar. So very happy to have you here on this Friday morning. Let me briefly remind you of our webinar procedures. I'm sure you're all very well aware, but just in case, so this webinar is being recorded and then will also be shared on our public communication channels. You're very welcome to type any questions you have to our speakers in the chat, addressing the speaker they are for. If we have the time and you would like to elaborate on a question, you're welcome to raise your hand if you wish to speak, and then also we'll give you the rights to, well, of course, enable your microphone and your camera. Otherwise, yes, you'll stay on listening mode and throughout the whole webinar. So that's quite straightforward. Just briefly about, well, the organization I work for, Textile ETP. Who are we? What do we do besides organizing these Insight series and facilitating this ECOSYSTEX community? So Textile ETP is an organization based in Brussels, and we're the largest community of textile research and innovation professionals in Europe. We bring together people, organizations for networking opportunities to exchange and in the end, well, foster research and innovation in Europe. We also have different learning formats, 3 different innovation hubs for circular and bio-based textiles, smart and high-performance textiles, and digitalization. And we also facilitate this ECOSYSTEX cluster. And then we also help our members in, well, finding each other to then access EU funding and apply to EU funding rather together. So that's briefly what what ETP is in a nutshell. But now let's get to the webinar of today. So this is the agenda. We have 4 very interesting presentations prepared for you from 4 of our member projects, of which some are, well, I think one is started recently, but the others are quite advanced, and they will present some very interesting research results today. So we'll have the first presentation from the SUSTRACK project, followed by the RegioGreenTex project. Then we take some time to address questions to the speakers. And then we have 2 more presentations from the CALIMERO project and the Penguin project, followed by another Q&A. And then at the end, I'll wrap up and share some links to events from other member projects that are coming up. So in case this is your first ECOSYSTEX webinar, very briefly, what actually is ECOSYSTEX? So we're the European Community of Practice for Sustainable Textile Ecosystem, and essentially a cluster of EU-funded textile research and innovation projects that all work on textile sustainability and circularity. And yeah, we launched now nearly 3 years ago and grew really significantly to 77 member projects, out of which over 440 experts from all across Europe are registered and engage with ECOSYSTEX. And the core idea was really to create a permanent expert community and a central knowledge hub for practical application of EU-funded science and technology for textile sustainability. And to achieve this goal, we have 3 different areas of activity. So for one, we want to foster inter-project collaboration by bringing the experts that are active in these different projects together in different working groups to exchange, discuss best practices, etc. Secondly, we also occasionally engage with EU policymakers because, well, we bring a lot of scientific knowledge together in the community. So sometimes we consult our experts to then forward this these insights to EU policymakers to inform their decision making. And lastly, we're also very active for joint dissemination activities like this webinar series, but we're also organizing an annual ECOSYSTEX conference that is actually taking place in 10 days from now. So that's just a brief overview. Let's get back to today's webinar. Here on this slide, you can see all our different member projects, and these 4 are the ones that are presenting today. So with that being said, now it's my pleasure to hand over to the first speaker, Gülşah Yılan from Unitelma Sapienza in Italy, to present us the final results of the SUSTRACK project.
Thank you, Tila. And good morning to everyone also from my side. Just a second, I'll share my screen. And now you should be seeing it in the presentation mode as well. So as introduced, this is Gülşah Yılan speaking. I work as the project manager for SUSTRACK, and which reads as supporting the identification of policy priorities and recommendations for designing a sustainable track towards circular bio-based systems. And I, of course, want to start with thanking the ECOSYSTEX community, which we had been in contact since the beginning of our projects. So we highly appreciated their support for our communication dissemination activities. So this is to say, before I begin. And moving with the presentation, so this is a 3-year project. We are almost over. So by the end of October, we will be delivering our final reports. And this is a coordination and support action. We start with the knowledge of this gap in the critical assessment of environmental, social, and economic impacts of the linear economy, but also the potential improvement associated with the circular systems. So we aim at supporting policymakers to develop sustainable pathways, replacing fossil carbon-intensive systems with more sustainable circular and bio-based systems. And I encourage you to check our website, because now it is quite populated with the project results and the fact sheets that we created so far. We are also using our social media channels very actively to communicate our upcoming events or the results that we produced throughout the course of our project. And the 2 main objectives and the sectors of interest are to provide knowledge and tools for monitoring and assessing the impacts of both fossil-intensive and fossil-intensive economy and circular bio-based economy, as well as identifying priorities and defining actions to support policymakers. In the scope of our project, we are mainly considering 4 sectors: construction, chemical, plastics, and textiles. But of course, today's presentation only focuses on the textile sector. However, I know that many projects are covering more than 1 sector. So if you are interested in knowing more, please feel free to go through our website and to see the overall outcomes. And for the textile sector, you are using 3 case studies as the test benchmarks for our analysis to test our monitoring system or to test our policy instruments. So these are man-made cellulosic fibers like lyocell, Lux sheep wool from the Basque region of Spain, and also recycled carded wool from Prato in Italy. And in order to drive the policy recommendations and policy actions, we first started with the definition of circular bio-based economy from SUSTRACK's point of view. As you well know, there is no single agreed upon definition yet for the circular bio-based economy. So we wanted to define the boundaries before we start. So we are using this multi-layered working definition. We are using the Sustainable Development Goals as the overarching goal structure. Under this, we have the objectives highlighting our key goals that are represented also in the SDGs, or intermediate goals that can contribute to the SDGs. These could involve climate protection, competitiveness and jobs, supply security, sustainable resource management, and food security. The common denominator here is the resource use that is directly taken from the European Bioeconomy Strategy. Then in the inner layer, we have principles and means. These are the layers pointing to specific ways of achieving the goals and objectives, but not implementable policies yet. Here we are specifically focusing on greenhouse gas emissions, resource use efficiency, and decoupling resource use from economic growth. And finally, at the core of our definition, there is the instruments layer that can link to actionable policy knowledge that could include quotas, permits, labels, and taxes, which I will be explaining in more detail in the upcoming slides. And so what did we do in the course of our project? We checked through different work packages what would be the barriers of this transition in the textile sector for this presentation, and what would be the challenges that we identified through case studies, including their implementation, considering different dimensions such as sustainability, market, and policy aspects. And then we try to figure out what could be the best solution at the national level, but as well as the European level. To this aim, after the identification of barriers and challenges, we tried to condense and find the gaps to work on, to act on, and then we organized many stakeholder activities. Maybe you were also in one of them in the course of last 3 years. So we checked the strengths and weaknesses of the options that we are proposing to close these gaps. And then we asked also the prioritization of the options, policy instruments with the external stakeholders to see which could have the potential to be implemented and to be overcome these gaps identified. And now a bit of the results that we have collected. So the first one is the barriers to the uptake of the bio-based solutions in textiles. We conducted a comprehensive literature review for this part, and then we asked the stakeholders which would be the most prominent barriers from their perspective in order to identify the hindering parameters. We divided these barriers into 6 clusters, being cultural, governance, economic, structural, environmental, and technical barriers. We started with around 200 barriers, and then we managed to boil it down to 31 barriers in total for the whole sectors. And these are the ones that are prioritized for the textiles instead. So just a couple of them, for example, for the cultural barriers, missing communication, misinformation, and disinformation stand out as one of the most prominent ones. At the governance level, we saw competing political interests with fossil-based industries, as well as the regulatory complexities and the fragmented regulatory framework were perceived as great barriers. At the economic level, fluctuating prices and the supply of biomass and raw materials, as well as the investment costs for circular bio-based industries. And more structural barriers stand out as the lack of harmonized waste collection systems and infrastructure. At the environmental level, we identified the lack of harmonized methods for environmental, climate, and sustainability impact assessment, which is also in the agenda now. Recently with ISO and Greenhouse Gas Protocol, they published a new report bringing these 2 aspects together. And finally, at the technical level, we have the problems with the infrastructure capacity for end-of-life product collection, storage, and management. And as I said, we also conducted many sectoral workshops in order to identify what would be the challenges in different dimensions, such as policy, sustainability, and market dimension. Here we identified for the textile sector, for example, the gaps in policy guidance. And corresponding to these challenges, we tried to identify some examples of good practices. These good practices set the floor for us to derive policy recommendations. For the policy guidance, for example, it could be an idea to set up collaboration structures and policy that ensure the sustainability claims in the EU. That would be credible. And then still in the policy dimension, we have high additional cost for recycling and the use of new bio-based materials. This could be overcome by increasing extended producer responsibility. And overconsumption, especially due to the fast fashion and the low prices, increase strongly the footprint of the textile sector, as we know. So here we need more policies to stimulate the education and information sharing. It could also include the digital product passports, as I will also propose just in the following challenge. So under the sustainability sphere, we have transparency and traceability issues, so that here the certification schemes and labels hold a good space for us to work on. And the research and innovation gaps, as we are all tackling with all these Horizon Europe projects, this could be used to support for all levels of developments. And at the market level, repairing would increase the cost of garments and cannot compete with the fast fashion garments. So it could be also a tax on ultra fast fashion brands. And finally, higher production cost of bio-based fibers compared to standard plastics is still a challenge to be overcome in the textiles. So a green VAT, lowering the VAT to 10%, both for sustainable businesses and sustainable products, could be an idea to be offered. And then we move to the identification of policy priorities. We reviewed the policies with a literature review and AI-assisted literature review, I have to say. And then we collected additional policy targets throughout our design conferences. And then we clustered the policies into policy sets, which I will explain better in the following slide. And then we discussed them with the stakeholders in terms of their strengths and weaknesses, considering different parameters such as effectiveness, cost, acceptance, legal barriers, etc. And then we conducted a survey to find the preferences at the European level, what would have been the best option in the stakeholders' perspective to implement to overcome these policy gaps. And finally, we have a list of policy priorities, which I will explain again. So how we set up these policy documentation? So we basically focused on direct regulations that could be bans, sustainability criteria, or quotas that are centralized, government-driven. But we also used market-based policies such as tax, subsidies, and emissions trading as decentralized policies. At this point, we considered two basic principles. Of course, our aim, the first aim, is to promote transition, but this transition should also consider the resource use because of the rebound effect. So we divided our policy instruments into promoting transition, but at the same time limiting resource use principles. And we also defined two different sets of policies. The first one considering the biomass use, and the second one specifically focusing on improving the circularity. So this helped us to put very clear boundaries of our policy sets also, as well as facilitate an easy communication with the stakeholders that we are engaging with. So under this direct regulation and the promoting transition segment, you can see there are quotas for either for feedstock or for improving the recycled material in textiles. We also have public procurement for the biomass and eco-design criteria for improving circularity. Still under the direct regulation and limiting resource use, for the biomass use, we have the sustainability criteria. For the circularity, we have a ban on destruction of unsold goods. And moving to the market-based instruments, we have innovation subsidies in both sides. The first one is promoting the technologies and practices for bio-based textiles. And the second one is using the biomass in a more sustainable way, and the second one is promoting more innovative technologies in order to improve the circularity. And as I just mentioned, the green VAT, reduced value-added tax on reused or recycled textiles for circularity. And last segment is the limiting resource use for market-based instruments. There is the different taxes here that we are proposing. The first one is the environmental tax on fast fashion textiles, fibers, yarns, and fabrics. On the other hand, for the circularity policy set, we are proposing a carbon tax on the use of fossil feedstocks in textiles production. So here we conducted a survey in order to decide what would be their preference between the direct regulation measures and the market-based instruments. But at the same time, I would like to mention that these are not standalone instruments. They have to be coupled with each other. So this is why we put them together in order to make them working hand in hand to promote transition, but at the same time to limit resource use. So what the results look like during our final conference discussions, you can see some sort of screenshots from the discussions that we had with our external stakeholders. So we asked them to evaluate one by one all these policy instruments and suggest their strengths and weaknesses, so that it helped us to create these policy sets into a more concrete and actionable way. And then we asked them to prioritize how they would see them fitting in their own context. So during the course of these conferences, we reached more than 200 participants, and we engaged in a very high-level discussions. And finally, we had the survey results here showing the strong support, let me say, for instruments that are promoting innovation and sustainability. Among the policy instruments that we discussed, the innovation subsidy for innovative textile use or recycling practices and technologies, and the ban on the destruction of unsold goods received a high proportion of recommendations and indicating broad consensus on their potential impact. Similarly, eco-design criteria and green watt were positively voted, reflecting the stakeholder interest in incentivizing durability and reuse. But on the other hand, instruments such as the carbon tax on fossil feedstocks and environmental tax on fast fashion received a more mixed response. This could indicate the concerns about feasibility or economic impact. And the quota for recycled and bio-based materials and public procurement without fossil-based content also received varied feedback that could highlight the need for further dialogue on implementation mechanisms. But the overall results illustrated a clear preference for policy instruments that are combining environmental ambition with practical incentives. So this is our takeaway message. And at the end of our survey, we also asked the respondents to pick one of these policy sets. One is focusing on the biomass use, and the other one is focusing to improve the circularity. And almost all respondents expressed a clear preference for the second policy. That indicates a strong support for measures that are enhancing the circularity in terms of reuse, recycling, and design for durability. So that this is an European level results, by the way. So this is a starting point for us to propose circularity oriented policies that are perceived as more effective and actionable. And if in the meantime, it also suggests that the biomass sustainability is still important. However, the respondents are always prioritizing their preference in the reduced resource consumption and waste generation. And also a very quick introduction of the tool that we are developing. So we are also developing this circular bioeconomy monitoring system. We are aiming to facilitate access to available resources, support understanding of good management for the transition to a circular bioeconomy, and to elicit the connections between indicators, SDGs, and benchmarks. And as you can imagine, this goes beyond the textile sector, but all the sectors of interest that we are working on. So under this tool, you can see two separate sections. The first one is a dashboard, an interactive interface for visualizing the indicators and data from different perspectives. It could be cross-country point of view, performance point of view, or country-specific point of view. On the other hand, there are the circular bioeconomy indicators, again, an interactive interface for searching bioeconomy indicators through selected filters. Here you can see different implementation levels at the country, region, or the product level, different sustainability dimensions, environmental, social, or economic, and you can see how these indicators are contributing to SDGs and societal objectives. And just a reminder here, this tool is still under development, so we will deliver the final version by the end of October, but we still collect the feedback and the comments from all external users. So if you have time and if you are interested to see how it works and to play with it a bit, it would be highly appreciated if you can share your feedback with us. And last but not the least, this is still not public yet. We are still in the organization of the final speakers, but I would like to spread the word to save the date for our final event that will happen on the 28th of October. 2 hours webinar, fully online, so that you can share your first. Of course, we will present the SUSTRACK main results, but then we will leave the floor for 2 roundtables. The first one will be giving the floor to the projects that are concluding soon. So there are some projects already confirmed to take the floor and share their outputs. And the second roundtable will be focusing more on the policies, so how these project results can be translated into policies. And here also there is a specific part we called open mic for the projects that are newly funded. So if they wish to contribute, we will leave the floor to them for a couple of minutes to present their projects. And we hope that the outputs that we will be presenting during this conference could be somehow useful and inspiring for them to move forward. And hoping to stay in the dedicated time, I finish my presentation, thanking you for your attention, and I look forward to your comments and questions.
Thank you very much for your insightful presentation. And indeed, you stayed within time, so very professional. Thank you so much. And yes, everyone here is welcome to ask questions in the chat that we will then address after the next presentation. So now it's my pleasure to welcome Enrico Venturini from NTT and Paola Fontana from Città Studi Pointex, also both located in Italy, to take the floor and share their results and developments of the RegioGreenTex project that is also ending at the end of this year.
Thank you very much, Tilla. Good morning, everybody. As Tilla introduced, my name is Enrico Venturini, and I work for Next Technology Tecnotessile. We are a research center based in Prato, in Tuscany region of Italy. And I'm going to share with you the results of the RegioGreenTex project, in particular, for what concern the Italian GreenTex hub. So I'm going to explain in short what is the concept behind this recycling hub that we are working on in Italy. So I'll share my screen first. I hope you can see my slides. I'm putting them in full presentation mode. Please confirm if you can see them correctly.
Not in full screen yet.
This might be because of the, let me try again. Please tell me if now you can see them correctly.
Yes, perfect.
Okay, perfect. So I will share this presentation with my colleague Paola Fontana from Pointex, from the textile district of Biella, and of course I will be representing the textile district of Prato. So a few words about the RegioGreenTex project. It's been quite a long journey because it was a 3-year project funded under the I3 program of the European Commission. The project is going to end in this December, and the end of the year. We account for 43 partners, so it was a very large project, 11 regions, 8 countries, and the project was about many different objectives, among them the establishment and consolidation of 5 regional textile recycling hubs, And we are counting the project for 26 pilot projects of SMEs. So we have in the project as partners 26 SMEs. So according to the European Green Deal, with the project is about establishing, promoting collaboration for innovation in the textile industry, not neglecting other dimensions of the sector like industry, government, society, research institute to establish circular business models across EU. The coordinator is EURATEX, the European Association of Textile Industry. So first of all, we have the mapping of the needs for circular economy, but also the establishment of recycling textile ecosystem at European level, also supported by digital platform that you can access by visiting our website, which is RegioGreenTex.eu. And of course, biggest part of the project was the support to the SMEs pilot projects, and all of the 26 pilots are focused on circularity. And one of the other pillars of the project is the establishment of the 5 regional recycling hubs that you can see and visualize in the map. So today we are going to talk about only one of them, the Italian one, but we have other 4 hubs located in Romania, in the lowlands, so Netherlands, Flanders, and Hauts-de-France, in Auvergne-Rhône-Alpes region, and also in Portugal. So today, as I was mentioning, we're going to talk about the Italian hub, which is a shared initiative of Prato and Biella Textile District. What is the Italian GreenTex hub? You see here, as I already mentioned, Prato and Biella cities. So we have this dual approach because it's not only a geographical sharing, it's also about a sharing between physical infrastructure and a service-based platform, which aims to turn recycling capacity into shared knowledge and decision tools. It's industry-driven, so of course, the main goal is to support SMEs that are dealing with end-of-life textile products, enabling them to access technology transfer and co-design solutions, and finally also to connect the Italian platform and the infrastructures of Italy to the other recycling hubs of Europe. As I said, the basic concept and the heart of this initiative is the combination of hard services and soft services. So hard services is outside of the budget of the project. So both Prato and Biella are creating actually infrastructures for sorting, treating, recycling, and producing new products out of the end-of-life textile waste by different automatic lines. For instance, here in Prato, we will have a big infrastructure with an automatic sorting line. And then, we have already in place many companies dealing with shredding, carding, and spinning new yarns, especially wool yarns, out of recycled waste material, sorry. And then we have also the mapping and assessment, because the SMEs working in this value chain about recycling will be part of the hub and will be catalyzed by the hub to cooperate with the infrastructure and services that the hub will provide. But of course, as I said before, the hub is not only hardware, but it's also soft services. So what we have focused on in the RegioGreenTex project is to establish and develop the soft services that will complement the hard dimension of the hub and the manufacturing process that the hubs are going to implement in the coming years, for providing SMEs a full set of services. So the manufacturing capacity, but also the knowledge and technology transfer. So the soft dimensions are here grouped in 4 different areas. The first, of course, is research development and innovation. So the main idea here is to set up a collaboration between the SMEs to initiate R&D and innovation projects. The second area is the application development and the market activation. So here we want to work on the textile waste material that is the input to this value chain about recycling, categorize this waste material, getting knowledge about this waste material, and then implement the 5R solutions as much as possible through showroom and through go-to-market support to our SMEs. Then the third dimension is the skills development and training. So this is based mainly on the technology transfer, the knowledge about how to deal with waste material and what can be done with waste material in terms of 5R, and transfer this knowledge to the SMEs. And finally, the fourth area is the testing, certification, mapping, and assessment. And I'm going to talk in more details about this area in a moment when we will talk about the waste classification system and the recyclability assessment that we have developed within RegioGreenTex Italian hub. Of course, our sector in Italy is affected by many, let's say, weak points. And here on the left-hand side of the screen, you can see what are the main challenges. So I'm not going to talk much about this because this is shared knowledge already, but you know, our companies are very small, so there is a high fragmentation, there is a lack of scientific and objective approach on how to treat these waste materials. So our companies, our sorters and recyclers are very well skilled about how to deal with waste wool, but this is something that comes from the tradition and from transmission from generation to generation. It's not something that has a scientific approach. So what we want to do is to systematize this knowledge. Then there is a need for new technology because the mechanical recycling that is in place here in Prato, but also in Biella, is something that is very static, is the same since many decades. So there is a big and a strong need in terms of innovation of these processes. There is a lack of standards, a lack of data, and this lack of data comes from the lack of real traceability systems implemented throughout the whole value chain. There is a low economic viability of the textile waste streams because so far we recycle wool, but we are not able to recycle other fibers, especially with mechanical recycling, because of the lack of economic convenience. So this is another problem that we want to approach. And there is, of course, from the market side, a weak demand of recycled textiles. So what are the first responses of the Italian hub? First of all, a shared knowledge and a shared coordination between Prato and Biella, two textile areas of Italy. Then the setup and the definition of tools and methods. We have defined some indices, for instance, for the recyclability assessment. I'm going to talk about this in a moment. We have started to collect data and to map textile waste material. There is, as I said before, no scientific-based knowledge about the textile waste. And so we have created textile waste families. We have produced textile eco-design guidelines. We have produced a report about the circularity in textile sector and the explanation on how to adopt and implement these indices. And then finally, we have produced a report about technology scouting, so the technologies that are at the moment the most used ones for recyclability and circularity in textile sector. These reports that you see in small, we are going to talk about them in a moment, are all available on the RegioGreenTex website. This is the first one. I was talking about this before regarding the indices. It's fresh new because it was uploaded, it was concluded a couple of days ago, and it's now available on the website. So this is a real anticipation that we are going to give you. We are mapping the waste flows of families. So there was an extensive campaign of interviews that we have performed within the two textile areas, Prato and Biella. So what we have achieved in terms of waste categorization and characterization is something done with a bottom-up approach. So it comes from the companies. Then we are introducing in the report TIOR. This is the recyclability index, which is an index based on 15 key parameters to assess what is the recyclability and what is the most suitable application that is possible to achieve with a given family of category of textile waste. And finally, we link this to the market because we believe in this statement, not market, no recycling. So it identifies application routes and where is possible to absorb the abundant flows of waste. Let's have a look now at the index and how it works in practice. So this is a multi-parameter post-sorting recyclability index. So I want to start by the right-hand side of the screen, where you see the recycling value chain of textile waste. And if you see the red circle, you see that now the index is focusing on post-sorting fibers. So once the sorting is done and once the families or categories of textile waste are created, we can use and apply the index for the creation of possible applications. So the index is a tool that evaluates the different textile material families, okay, and what is the recyclability, incentivize the structural collection of textile waste in the short term, then it links the waste families to the possible applications that can be achieved, and identify the appropriate technologies. So new applications is the final goal. So what we have done is define the parameters for the textile waste. We have defined a wide range of possible applications. We have defined a set of weights that depend on the type of material and the type of application, that technology that we have available. So by combining these three different ingredients in the pot, we actually can assess if there is what is the most suitable application that can be achieved by recycling the textile category that we have available in practice. Here you see it's very small, so it's not very easy to read, but you can download the report and see how it works. But on the left-hand side, you see what are the 15 parameters of the textile waste. So this is something that, let's say, gives scientific methodology to what has been done so far by touch and sight, so manually and visually by our operators active in the recycling value chain. Then we have these 15 parameters, and the index can drive the user through this journey. So it can tell the user not only if it is recyclable, but also what is the best application, for instance, fashion, automotive or technical textiles. And so it gives consistency and possibility of recycling to high quality fibers. So what we have done, this is about the mapping of the waste material. Is, as I said, an extensive interview campaign with companies and stakeholders in Prato and Biella. So what we have assessed is the categorization is done on fiber first, so then by color, and then by origin, if it's post-industrial, post-consumer, which is also another very important parameter, and finally also according to the geography. So this confirms that fiber composition is the main criterion for ordering, acquiring, and transforming textile waste. Maybe it's not such a big discovery, but it's very important because it's been scientifically demonstrated. And here in this chart, you can have a look at the family types according to the different fiber composition. Okay, so fiber first, then color, origin, and geography. This is instead the final part that takes that the index takes into consideration no market, no recycling. This is the slogan that we have used because recycling works only if there are real applications able to absorb the recycled materials. So you see here some pictures about some possible novel applications that we have studied. And here I want to underline, together with the support of the University of Florence, that I thank very much, we have identified around 20 possible applications that are not on the market already. So this gives more chances for expanding the market, because as you see here, there are many constraints related to the possibility of recycling. First of all, we do not have enough market, so the flows that we have of waste materials struggle to find viable uses. We have a risk of stockpiling because, and this is something that it's really happening here in Prato, our SMEs produce waste and they stock the waste. They don't know how to get rid of it because there are no recycling possibility, and there are regulations, limits that refrain these companies by using the textile waste for new products or new applications. There is a need to link these products to the market, so to connect the recyclability with real opportunities. And finally, the role of research and innovation that really can provide our companies and our operators with new opportunities for finding new markets. So this is what we have tried to do with the index. Moving to the next topic, here you see the report that is available about the eco-design guidelines, and is on the website that I mentioned before. Here you see a graphic representation of the different elements that has been taken into consideration for the eco-design. What this guide provides and what is different from the many publications that are already available for eco-design is that it gives a step-by-step approach. So it's a kind of guide driving the designers through the long and complicated path of design a product in sustainable terms. So one of the tools that offer practical guidance is this guide, where there is, beyond this path that I was mentioning, also the link to the EPR regulation. So each decision that is taken during the design phase is linked to the upcoming bonus-malus system of the EPR regulation. So every decision generates a bonus, a malus. And this bonus and this malus, of course, are very relevant. They are quantified because they can assess the eco-modulation of the taxes that the companies have to pay. The next tool is the technology scouting. To present these important outcomes, I kindly ask Paola Fontana from Pointex to take the floor and present this part of the presentation. Thank you, Paola.
Thank you, Enrico. Do you want me to share the slides, or are you going to?
No, I'm going to turn them
great.
for you if you want. Yeah, okay.
Okay, great, thank you. Thank you, Enrico, for your very nice presentation on the work we have done within the ItalyGreenTex Hub. I will complete your presentation by explaining something about two more reports, two more documents that we have developed within the ItalyGreenTex Hub, which are the Technology Scouting Textile Waste Management report, and another report which is an overview of the exhibition Textile Recycling Expo, which was held in Brussels in June. So starting from this first document, this is a map of technologies of stakeholder and innovation in textile recycling. We focused on the information we had from Prato and Biella areas, but this mapping was carried out at European level. So in the report, we'll find the European solutions that solution provider companies are giving for this specific recycling theme. We wanted to have a comprehensive analysis across the complete value chain, focusing not only on what is available and what exists so far, but also trying to understand what we miss and what we have to implement so far. We have screened some technologies, so materials identification and classification, mechanical, chemical, and hybrid recycling processes, downstream transformation technologies, fiber to fiber or sector application. So in the next slide, you can see the key challenges that we identified, which I think we have been talking about this previously, also not only in this webinar. The main key challenges we identified are integration of the project stages with different technology readiness level, which and this discrepancy is quite relevant. We have heterogeneous and non-standardized textile waste streams, and there is also some incompatibility between upstream and downstream outputs. We had a look also on strategic insights with the final aim really to provide an actionable operable framework for stakeholders, recyclers, for companies, and for research centers as well. What I would like to underline is that we report in this report the technologies that are available on the market, but also some technologies which have a high TRL level that maybe they are not on the market so far, but they are going to be in the really next future. So in the next few slides, you will find also the structure of the report. So what will you find in this report? I think we have no time to go into details about it, but I just would like to mention that in this report you will find mechanical recycling and material preparation, advanced chemical recycling, and in the next slide, circular materials, if I'm not wrong, and and fibers, sorting and classification technologies, and also some specialized applications that we discovered. This report is available in English language, so you can still just have to ask it, and we will provide it to you, and we will upload it also in our RegioGreenTex website. Last, I would like to say something about the other report that we prepared, which is made by the two different documents. A descriptive session, a very short session on what we discovered, on what we found interesting in the Textile Recycling Expo, which was held in Brussels in June. And we also prepared an Excel file with all the info on the exhibitors. So with this file, you can really have all the information on what was presented during this exhibition last June. These are the sections that you will find in the exhibition and in the report, and also this report is available as well in our website. It is now so far it is in Italian, but we are translating it. I think in 2 days or something we can make it available to all of you. Okay, I think I don't have any time more. Last but not least, if you want to know more about the ItalyGreenTex Hub, Enrico and his colleagues organized a very nice event with us also, and it will be held in November 2025 in Prato. So if Enrico, you want to add something about the event, I leave you the floor.
Yes, thank you, Paola. Thank you so much. We are short of time, so I'm not going to give you many details, but it's going to be a nice discussion because we will have an interactive session between RegioGreenTex and Solstice, which is another European project dealing with the recycling of textiles. So we will have also the chance to have a visit, on-the-ground visit to recyclers or to the hub, which is not ready yet. Of course, it's under construction, but I think that from what we have presented so far during this presentation, you had an idea not of the infrastructure, but of the services that the hub can really provide our SMEs in order to facilitate and increase their recycling capacities, but also to learn more about how to increase their circularity and recycle the textile waste. So we really look forward to hosting you in Prato on the 19th of November. It's going to happen in the afternoon. You can stay tuned on our social media or websites for more information and all the details. I thank you very much for your attention, and I apologize because we have been overcoming a little bit the time given. For any update and any question, we are available also at the end of this webinar. So with this, I conclude my presentation and I pass the word to Tilla. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much. Yeah, thank you for your presentation and sharing about all the work and the results that you've developed in the RegioGreenTex project. It's really impressive to see. As well what you've done, as well as what SUSTRACK has done. And there have also been quite a few questions in the chat, but indeed, as we were short on time, I also see that Gülşah already started replying to some questions, so that's great. Let's see let me have a quick look at the chat. Maybe I'll take two questions to the RegioGreenTex project. So Enrico Stefan asked, the sorting parameters you describe scientifically evaluated, how are they practically proven? We report for the recycled products missing economy and demand. I observe some mismatch to all the properties needed for industrial processing. And textile, to my spinning experience, they are only partly scientifically evaluated.
Well, as I mentioned during the presentation, the index work on the post-sorted materials. So we assume that the materials is sorted both automatically and manually, because this will serve the plant that is going to be established for sorting. Of course, the index is still in his, let's say, embryonal stage, so we need to refine it with more testing. So we will have also a second phase where we are going to use the index and validate it through lab tests and other visual assessments by experts. So I think that this will also give us the chance to refine the index and maybe add some of the parameters that have not been considered so far. But yes, believe me that starting by 15 parameters was already a very great challenge and a great work.
Okay. Thanks for your answer. And there's A second question to the two of you by Jade on asking, during the mapping of the post-industrial textile waste flow, in addition of composition, colors, etc., did you also get information on quantity and quality of those materials? Paola, you're nodding your head.
Yes, because then Enrico, you can complement my reply. But yes, starting replying that yes, when we had this survey with the companies, we asked them the quantity of the materials that they could make available and the kind of waste, let's say waste post-industrial or waste that they can make available. So yes, we have this number. I think that we could also implement this information, as you can understand that the different companies can give very different numbers. So we asked this question, but we have so many answers which are really different among them. So there is a big difference among these answers that we got.
If I can add something very shortly, this is a very sensitive point because we realized that our companies, they have no systematic method of measuring the quantities, the different categories of the quantities. So we started to try to understand how the categories can be formed and what are the numbers, because we don't have any exact numbers about quantities of waste, incoming waste for different sources from all over the world that come here to Prato to be processed and recycled. And we do not have real data about the quantity of waste material that the companies produce themselves. So this is really a great challenge. As Paola mentioned, companies give different numbers. We don't really understand where the truth is. And so this is another point that we need to start to tackle with a more scientific approach, in my opinion.
Okay, thank you so much. I hope, Gülşah, it's fine if we skip the questions for you because you answered them already in the chat. So thank you so much for all of you. And in the interest of time, we'll move to the next presentation. But I think you'll stay with us. So if we happen to have some time at the end, there are some more questions, or you can put your contact in the chat as well. But yeah, for now, thank you again. And now it's my pleasure to move on to the next project, the CALIMERO project that will be presented by Alexandre Charpentier from Neovili and Thomas Schaubroeck from LIST, Luxembourg. So please take the floor.
Thank you, Tila. So, Alexandre Charpentier, I'm a research associate in Neovili, and I'll co-present this presentation with Thomas Schaubroeck from LIST, as Tila just said. So basically, I'll try to walk you through, of course, to give you a glimpse of what was accomplished during the CALIMERO project that is now really close to reaching its end. And we here focus in this project on the development of methodological development and improvements to kind of expand what we already do with PEF environmental assessment towards more broader LCSA assessment, and give you some insights from the project for one of the case studies focusing here on textiles. So this project, with the long name that is Industry Case Studies Analysis to Improve the Environmental Performance and Sustainability of Bio-Based Industrial Processes. It was a horizon project lasting from July 2022 and now ending, as I said, in October, so just next month. And we were working with a consortium of 11 partners led by Contactica. So you can see here on the screen, we have quite diverse partners from different European countries, some industrial partners, some from academia, and a few consultancy companies as well. So the project overview here, we had, so it's of course a European project. The goal was to create a common framework for the life cycle assessment methodologies of certain bio-based industry sector. It was also which had a sister project called LINED, so that worked on a similar topic, but with a different approach. Our objectives were to identify the barriers and incentives for bio-based industries to apply LCSA, to improve the LCSA methodologies. We had a few focus subjects that you can see here. So basically circularity, criticality, the dynamic carbon footprint or GHG footprint, toxicity and biodiversity as well. Also, we developed a multi-objective optimization framework to optimize bio-based industrial processes with process simulation and some sustainability criteria. We also propose solutions to improve the sustainability performance of the industrial processes that were studied with our industrial partners in the project. And finally, to provide some guidelines to apply LCSA for bio-based sectors, including textile, of course, and to propose some monitoring procedures of the sustainability performance at the plant. So as you can see here, we had 5 sectors included in the project with one industrial partner each, paper, bio-based chemicals, construction, woodworking, and the main subject for this presentation, the textile sector. Our main contributions, or expected contributions, were to propose some new environmental indicators. So as I said, we focused here rather on toxicity, so environmental and human toxicity of some molecules that were not necessarily already available with the tools that are currently available for impact assessment. To integrate also some social and economic dimensions to address other sustainability aspects going further than the PEF methodology for the environmental assessment, and also to do some process simulation and integrate the results from this simulation in a MMO tool development that was specific to the different case studies or bio-based industries that we worked with. So now, just a really, synthetic overview of the textile sector, which is the focus now for the rest of the presentation. It's a quite complex and multi-tiered supply chains, as you know. So we go from raw material. We have quite some, global supply chains. So a lot of transport and a lot of different transformation processes. And currently, after the use phase, most of the textile is usually disposed of in a not so circular way, right? So these are things that, of course, come up for our results also in the project. These are an overview of some kind of screening work that we did during the project. So to identify the environmental hotspots of the sector, here we only used all of the screened life cycle inventory data sets from EcoInvent. And we basically did an analysis of those processes to see what were expected to be, the main hotspots from a data set point of view. So unsurprisingly, we identified climate change, acidification, particulate matter, water use, and resource use as some of the main impact categories that came up from these 27 LCI datasets. And we can group these environmental hotspots by contributors from the different data sets that we just saw on last slide. So there was 75 hotspot activities, and you can see the main families here highlighted in the yellow. So the water consumption, unsurprisingly, also the return of water after treatment to the environment, which kind of takes back some of the water that is used for processing and puts it back towards the natural environment. The agricultural production, energy consumption, some of the main treatment processes using quite a lot of chemicals, including for dyeing, and the material inputs. Regarding the social hotspots, we also did a screening with a survey that was sent out to some experts in the domain of textile and LCA, social LCA in Europe. And here you can see that the main hotspots that came out for the social point of view was the public commitment to sustainability issues, the health and safety regarding employees and workers, the safe and healthy living conditions for local communities, and for consumers also. So not so surprisingly, the health and safety and the transparency regarding the information that can be accessed when making some insightful purchases. So now the textile case studies for CALIMERO, were 4 main partners here involved. So basically we had Erex, that is a denim and woven garment producer in Turkey. We had Tectera, that is an innovation cluster for the French textile industry. We have LIST, that is a research and technology organization, and Neovili. We are a consultancy think tank around the textile supply chains in Europe. So now I can pass over the floor to Thomas that will walk you through the CALIMERO LCSA methodology and also give you some insights on one of the case studies that was made for the textile sector.
Hello all, I hope you can hear me. Thanks, Alex, for the introduction. I hope you can stay here to switch the slides. Sure. Can you go to the next one?
Yeah.
So just shortly myself, I'm Thomas Schaubroeck from Luxembourg Institute of Science and Technology. We are a research and technology organization, and I was the lead for the methodology development in this project. So in the LCSA approach, we focus, of course, on environmental impact, social impact, and economic impact. As an LCA, we have a goal and scope. We have an inventory where we collect data on fluxes, for example, CO2 fluxes, and then we do an impact assessment where you translate sets like fluxes into, for example, climate change, global warming potential. We also have additionally evaluation of criticality and circularity, which is more advanced. The other things are more straightforward to apply, as mentioned here. We apply for environmental and the characterization factors which we newly developed, as well as the PES approach. Then we do job creation potential for social, and for economic indicators we have net present value and other type of relevant economic indicators. We can go to the next slide. So how do you, of course, execute this? You have to collect foreground data, as already mentioned. So together with industrial partners, we collected data on energy and water flows, chemical inputs needed. Then for the social LCA, since we rely on databases that are using monetary values, you need to first collect monetary values, for example, how much everything costs, the chemicals, etc. Also for social LCA, specifically for job creation potential, we will ask how much jobs are created in your foreground system, how much worker hours are done, and we translate that into jobs. For economic, again, here we need to have information on the financial flows of the whole system. Thanks, you can switch to the next slide. So then we translate this, as said, into indicators. For the LCA, we use this product environmental footprint indicators. Now the PEF is an EU advised method, EU developed method, in fact. For social LCA, we perform a job creation potential indicator. And for life cycle costing, we do conventional financial evaluation focused on the producer. So looking at their internal rate of return and net present value. Plus, we also consider in this evaluation the EU ETS costs linked with greenhouse gas emissions. Because if you have certain CO2 emissions, big companies, you have to pay for those emissions. We can go to the next slide. Not only did we want to evaluate this, we also wanted to optimize processes. So if you have a certain process, say, for example, dyeing of textile, there are certain emissions, there are certain durations and water demands. You could all optimize this considering their sustainability impacts. So what happens, you can simulate this process. You have a certain model of it, then it can be run. It will give you certain scores of LCA and lifecycle costing. And then using an optimization algorithm, you could design your process to lower these scores. So to have a lower impact for your dyeing, for your color dyeing of your textiles, considering these scores of environmental impact, job creation, and financial costs. You can go to the next slide. Thank you. Now let's move on to some case studies. So together with Erex, which is a denim manufacturer from Turkey, parents should also be here in the call. So you know, of course, process involved with denim production. We have, of course, raw material needed, energy, chemicals. We have wastewater treatment of the flows coming out, and we collect data on this. And then, of course, there are background data coming, like, for example, electricity production. We get that from databases. Now we specifically will focus on the washing process, the washing being using stones to make the jeans look more rough. Can you switch to the next slide? So normally this is done with pumice stones, but they are very low in durability. You need to use a lot, so thousands of tons, and you create a lot of sludge afterwards, 1,200 tons. Compared to that, an alternative is an F-stone, which is a plastic stone, which lasts much longer, which of course then would be much less used, and it doesn't create sludge because it doesn't disintegrate. It just stays as a plastic stone as one piece. You can move to the next slide. If we then look at first results, so this is purely the environmental impact results, we see that the pumice stone in blue versus the F-stone, so the pumice stone performs very much worse for all the categories: acidification, climate change, particulate matter. Why? Of course, because of this much higher demand of wastewater treatment, the higher demand of resources, etc. One thing where it's not so different, sorry, can you go previous slide, is for the human toxicity. So there we still see that, of course, with F-stone, you still need to use certain chemicals. So there F-stone performs better, but the difference is less. And toxicity is in general a challenging topic for the textile sector. You can go to the next slide. So by removing the pumice stone, if you look at just greenhouse gas emissions, we are saving a lot of tons of waste, garbage trucks. We are reducing 16,600 or we would be doing the same as switching from incandescent lamps to LED lamps, 16,600 watts. You can move to the next slide. This was the first case study. The second case study is again about washing, but then after desizing. So you need a lot of energy for this. You need warm water. Normally this comes from a steam boiler, but the idea would be here, what if we implement the heat exchanger, which would take the outflowing hot water and heat up the inflowing cold water so you could recuperate some energy. It would cost some extra, but it would save, cost some extra capex, but it would save some energy and would possibly lower the environmental impact. So we wanted to know what would be the ideal dimension of such a heat exchanger. You can go to the next slide. The strategy was that for each of these impacts, for LCA, life cycle costing, and social LCA, we selected one indicator of each one. We defined certain scenarios being sizes of heat exchangers. We calculated the scores of each scenario, and then we applied an optimization considering priorities. What's more important, the LCA score, the job creation potential score, or the cost, the final costing. This was done together with the company. Then we obtained ideal scores considering this optimization with a perfect heat exchange area. So you can see the results. For climate change, we had a reduction of 86%. From toxicity, we also had huge reductions. We had lower OPEX score. Of course, the downside was, the trade-off was that the life cycle costing score was higher because of the capital investment. It costs a lot to heat exchanger, and we created more jobs, which was also beneficial. So we can clearly see some trade-offs, but the optimization helped in selecting the best scenario. You can go to the next slide. So what is a bit the learnings from these case studies? Washing processes may improve a lot using alternative scenarios. For example, the F-stone versus the pumice stone, or using a heat exchanger. Toxicity remains a key topic. It can be lowered by using certain strategies. Still, for many compounds, toxicity characterization is missing, and we could improve the assessment, what we have done in our analysis. Trade-offs may be inevitable. For example, the higher capital cost of the heat exchanger. Considering multiple LCSA indicators provides more information, allows to cover trade-offs, and this multi-objective optimization was performed. So optimization in a simple way, but can also be done in a more complex way, which is shown in the CALIMERO project deliverables. That's it from my side. I give the floor again to Alex.
Yeah, thanks, Thomas. So I'll just walk through some main key takeaways from the project, and also a really brief oversight of policy recommendations. But of course, within the CALIMERO deliverables, you can find much more detailed insights on these aspects. So for the environmental critical data gaps, we found that there were insufficient data sets for microfiber release characterization and for synthetic fiber production processes. There were missing LCI data for recycled fiber production, which is quite limiting when we try to, assess the circular economy strategies. And also we identified the need for simplified and improved assessment to lifecycle inventory data. The methodological limitations that we identified were here mostly focused on land use and biodiversity. Basically, the current LCIA methods fail to capture geographically specific impacts and ecosystem changes due to land use, for instance. Land use change. For the social assessment, we found that complex supply chains hinder the measurements of social impacts, and also that the indicators may be misaligned with the functional units that we use for the environmental and economic aspects. And also for the LCC, we found that no specific methodology for textile manufacturing existed, and also that environmental costs are integrated inadequately. The solutions that we propose as part of CALIMERO are some advanced impact assessment methods. So we propose some methodological improvements and the development of new characterization factors to assess biodiversity impacts, ecosystem services, and also dynamic carbon footprint assessment. We also propose some advanced toxicity models, so some new characterization factors from ProScale and USTOP frameworks. Basically here it was to cover some chemicals for which there were no characterization factors currently. And also we integrated some indicators. So here the job creation potential that can work with the same inventory data that we use for also the LCC assessment, and also some improved LCC indicators to improve the evaluation of economic sustainability. Very synthetic policy recommendations here. So basically for we call for harmonized assessment to standardize LCSA practices, especially for the textile sector comparability, but more widely for the bio-based sectors that we studied in the CALIMERO project. We call also for evidence-based decisions, of course, so to support sustainable textile policies with a robust scientific, environmental, social, and economic data and methodology as well. And also for the circular transition to enable a sustainable transformation of textile industry through some practical and science-based guidelines. So that was what we had to present to you today. Thank you for your attention, and don't hesitate to contact us also after this meeting if you have some more specific questions about the project. And you can find also on our website here all of the information on the deliverables that we made public and such. So don't hesitate also to reach there to find some additional content. Thank you.
Thank you so much to the two of you for sharing your learnings and all the work that you've done in the past years linked to textiles. Very interesting to see. And yes, please, everyone in the audience, if you have questions to our two experts here and also their two colleagues that are also in this meeting, feel free to use the chat, and then we'll address them after the next presentation. So for now, thank you, Alexandre and Thomas. And I would like to give the floor to the next speaker and the final speaker of today, Jenni Rahikainen from VTT in Finland.
Yes, thank you for the kind introduction. I'm pleased to be here to present you the Penguin project. And we have now completed roughly 18 months of the project. This is more about introducing to the topic and giving a few highlights what we've been up to so far. So I am currently acting as the interim coordinator of the Penguin during our coordinator's parental leave, but I'm heavily involved in the research in general. And I represent VTT, Technical Research Center of Finland, which is the coordinating a technology developer and coordinating the Penguin project. Here are some key facts of our project. So we Penguin is about bio-inspired and advanced fibers and materials for sustainable outdoor textiles with biomimetic functionalities. And we are an innovation action project, so really developing new technologies that we aim to scale up at technology readiness level 7 during the project. This is a 4-year project. We are currently running the month 18 of the project, and we are the EU contribution funding for our work is 6.5 million. Penguin has 10 excellent partner organizations involved that you can see there in the country map. And I would say that this project really combines the excellent know-how of textiles, textile materials, yarn spinning found in Southern Europe with the good know-how of cellulose-based materials and fibers found in the Northern Europe. So this is a north-south collaboration, I would say. The challenge that we are tackling really in Penguin, you can see it in this image. So outdoor textiles and the performance required in those textiles comes a lot from synthetic materials. So we typically have constructions of very many layers in the outdoor garments, like this puffer jacket, with a lot of different synthetic materials. And in Penguin project, we aim to change this. So we try to develop sustainable and high-performing cellulose-based materials for the outdoor textile market. And why the project is called Penguin is that we want to mimic the way how penguins protect themselves from the cold and moist environment and take inspiration from that. During the project, we plan to make this kind of buffer jacket prototypes, which would be completely made of cellulose-based textile layers. And as you may know, cellulose is by character a material with high interaction with water, which can be a challenge for this type of applications. So really the core of this project is to enhance and advance the moisture absorption properties of the cellulose-based materials so that they would be better suited for this kind of outdoor uses. Here you can see the work package structure of the Penguin project. So in work package 2, that is really focused on developing cellulose-based or actually wood-based textile fibers. In this case, we have 2 technologies. One is a man-made cellulosic fiber type of technology developed by VTT, and the other one is based on dry spinning of cellulose-based materials, and this comes from a company called Spinnova. Then in the work package 3, we develop insulation materials for outdoor textiles. And here we have actually 3 different technologies. 2 of them form this kind of web-like insulation material, and one is a loose fill insulation material that we make out of these cellulose-based fibers. Then we have work package 4, where we develop cellulose-based fibers, yarns and textile materials. Out of these fibers we develop in the project, and here the focus is also in developing novel kind of finishing treatments that would give added performance to the cellulose-based textiles. Then we have the end product, so the puffer jacket demos we are putting together. There we are developing sensors for testing the jackets so that you can in real time measure humidity or temperature within the jacket when somebody's testing the prototype. And then finally we have the recycling work package where aim is to look at how to recycle all of these different layers of the prototype jackets. These technological advancements are supported by WIC VP5 with some computational tools and the safe and sustainable by design framework. So there we have the assessment of the toxicity of the used chemistries and LCA assessments of the used technologies. And then this is actually my last slide, but this is to highlight some of the work for done during the first 18 months of the project and the partners that have been contributing to that work. So during the first 1.5 years of the project, we have been able to spin several batches of cellulose-based fibers, both at Spinnova and at VTT. And there we have been testing different parameters to modify the fiber properties. And this is really the benefit or the key of the project, that we can quite well tailor the properties of the fibers we produce with finishing treatments or chemistries that we introduce directly to the spinning dope. And this is possible with the technologies we are using here. Then there has been work to test the fibers in yarn spinning and fabric sample production, and this is work mostly done in collaboration of Spinnova, Siteve and Panga Grado0. And the first trials have been completed, and new ones are in process of planning. Then we have the work active in testing safe and sustainable chemistries for fiber and fabric finishing. Here we have the company called OrganoClick from Sweden, providing new and innovative finishing solutions for these cellulose-based materials that we are testing for enhancing the properties of our fibers and, for instance, the final insulation materials. Then we have been testing the 3 technologies for producing insulation materials out of cellulose-based fibers. Here we have activities from VTT, Molina, and Siteve and OrganoClick. And here we have been testing production of loose fill type of insulation material. Then we have air-laid production of the materials, and also a process called faux forming tested for the production of the materials. And now we are currently proceeded to testing of the cellulose-based insulation materials in the project. From the computational modeling, and there has been work done to simulate the effect of the new type of chemistries, how they affect the fibers, and trying to predict their performance with these computational simulations, so that we would have a tool that could enable us to screen different finishing treatments in silico, and checking how well they predict the or improve the for instance hydrophobicity properties of the fibers. And then we have also started to carry out the safety and sustainability assessment. So one initial LCA has been carried out for the fibers produced within the project, and then there has been work to check the safety of all the chemistries used in the production processes. And LCA has been done with Rina Consulting, and the safety chemical safety work has been conducted by Eidener. And then recycling strategy discussions have been started, and there is included our partner Colmar, which is also a kind of end user of within the project. We have also been able to produce some project demos, which are traveling across Europe in textile events and exhibitions, and these are taken care of, the exhibitions are taken care of our dissemination partner Confindustria Moda from Italy. So this was to summarize Penguin, what we are doing and what has happened during the 1.5 years of the project. If you wish to learn more about the project and what we are doing, please follow the social media accounts or contact us via the web pages. We are happy to get in touch.
Thank you so much. Thank you, Jenni, for introducing the Penguin project and sharing your first results. We'll make sure to invite you back again some other time for you to then present further developments on the end, also your final results. So thank you very much for your presence today. And now we have a quick moment to address any questions to the CALIMERO and the Penguin project that the audience might have. So far, there's one question to you, Jenni, about when speaking about spinning in content of outdoor wear. Is this fiber processed further as a filament, or is there a follow stable short fiber spinning?
Yes. Now I have to admit that I'm not a fiber spinning professional, but to the understanding that I have, we are actually more on the stable fiber spinning track here, to my understanding. But if you're more interested in this, I can find you the right people to answer your question.
Perfect. Yeah, we will also share the slides with all attendees afterwards, so your contact is on that as well. And then there is Now the question, yes, there's another question to Alexandre, if you're still here. I'll read it out. Is it part of the CALIMERO project to develop a single score as it has been for traditional LCA PEF-CR to simplify communication of results? If so, what would the challenges be of including more impact categories under the social and economic areas? I don't know.
Yeah, I can try to answer. And Thomas, if you're here also, you can maybe contribute to this. I mean, we use kind of the PEF as a baseline here. So considering also the single score to help us with the multi-objective results. Basically, we wanted to make sure that the single score of the solutions that we considered with the optimization algorithm would always decrease single score, even if we focused on individual indicators from the environmental perspective. To include more, if I understand, impact categories from social and economic areas in the single score, of course, would require some proper weighting scheme and such. So here we did not aggregate them for the single score. The idea was really to optimize, at the very least, the single score from the environmental perspective, and for selected indicators that was more relevant to the industrial partners. Typically, it would be like GHG footprint. And then we treated social and economic indicators separate from that. But maybe, Thomas, you can complete this.
Yes, I agree with Alex. So we didn't focus on developing a single score. We only used a single score from the PEF. But the idea was with this multi-objective optimization is to optimize multiple objectives separately. So for example, you want climate change to reduce 25%. You want job creation to increase so much. And you set these objectives and then you optimize in that way. So it's an alternative way of using a single score. It's more using different objectives at the same time to optimize your textile process in this particular case. And then, yes, other social and economic areas, yes, we were a bit narrow in our focus, but indeed this could be expanded towards that. But we did not focus on aggregating indicators. We focused more on coverage of social and economic and using this multi-objective optimization. But it's still an interesting line of the further development to aggregate this, but it was not the core focus of CALIMERO.
Thank you very much, the two of you. And I'll take the last question for you, Jenni, before we wrap up. So you mentioned developing sensors for validation of end product properties, for example, insulation. Are you aware of existing technologies?
There is a mention of
The whole
this work.
gamut.
So within Penguin, this sensor development is actually done at VTT in our printed electronics facility in Oulu, so in very north of Finland. And I'm not aware of this, but please, thank you for giving the contact. I will like forward it to my colleagues and ask them to check up for further information.
Great. Well, then, thank you, to our audience for asking questions, and of course to all our expert speakers that presented today. I will, before we officially close the event, bring up my slides again to share some upcoming events with all of you that will probably be interesting. So bear with me. So yes, I think now you can see my screen. So upcoming events or an opportunity where you can actually contribute. There is the SUSTRACK project that launched a survey on public procurement focused on circular textile products that is closing at the end of this month. So if you have any expertise on this, please complete the survey. And then there is another webinar by our member projects FIPSON and Biolosh that organize Fiber Future Talks, Visions for Sustainable Bio-Based Future on the 6th of October. And it was briefly mentioned earlier by the RegioGreenTex project, the event that they are organizing in Prato, Italy, together with another ECOSYSTEX member, the Solstice project. And you're very welcome to join us for that event as well. Then there are also other upcoming ECOSYSTEX events. So as I briefly mentioned at the very beginning of this webinar, we're organizing the ECOSYSTEX conference in 10 days. And there is the opportunity to join the first day plenary sessions online in case you cannot join us there in person. So yeah, my colleague dropped the link in the chat where you can register and then follow the sessions where we have two speakers from the Commission giving updates, and then our 6 different projects that will present and organize workshops at the conference. They will share what they've been working on in short input presentations. So those are the sessions you can follow online. You can also have a look at the full agenda with the other link in the chat in case you want to book a short notice flight to Gothenburg and join us in person. Of course, you're very welcome to do that as well. And yeah, then this year we have 2 more of these Insight series. One on the 22nd of October will focus on skills-related projects, and then another one focused more on the research and innovation projects, again, on the 14th of November. Yeah, this is here just again a slide about the conference. Welcome to check out the link, and then you can find all the information there as well. And with that being said, I would like to thank all of you for your attention and your time, especially, of course, to our speakers. It was really interesting to listen to you. And yeah, we will share the slides with everyone early next week, and also a recording. So thank you very much, and wishing you a lovely Friday and then a good weekend ahead.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you. Bye.
Bye-bye.
Bye.